Halo Campaign Evolved is more than just a remake of the game that started it all. It has 3 new missions! Exciting, right? Well, these missions are entitled Operation Meteorite, where you play through an operation Chief and Johnson undertook a year prior to Combat Evolved. There's a cool new Covenant faction, varied level design, and some absolutely terrible writing.
Takes more than fancy armor and a good PR campaign to impress me.
With how polarizing Campaign Evolved has been and how much conversation has sparked surrounding modern Halo, let's dive into Operation Meteorite and determine what Halo Studios succeeds at and what they really fail at. Hello everybody, it's your boy Jmulls.
Boo.
So what even is Operation Meteorite? Well, Chief and Johnson are tasked with infiltrating a Covenant ship to acquire some valuable data. And at the end of the campaign, the final cutscene, it's revealed that the data they acquire is about High Charity, the Covenant holy capital. This is related to book lore about a planned operation the UNSC wanted to undertake, but required the location of High Charity before it could even get off the ground. Without knowing this, it feels more like a tease of a Halo 2 remake than anything, since you wouldn't know much of anything about Operation Red Flag. So Chief and Johnson infiltrate the ship and learn that it's not a standard Covenant agricultural ship like they thought. It's being led by Harmony, who is overseeing genetic experimentations and augmentations upon this vessel. In giant test tubes lie the Jacqueline Elite models from Halo 4 and Halo 5, and Johnson and Chief theorize that they are a result of these experiments. It doesn't line up entirely with the lore that we got in Halo 4 and 5, but whatever. I kinda like the idea of writing those artistic abominations off as gross experiments, even if it doesn't explain Arbiter. Anyways, in a confrontation after arguably one of the worst cutscenes I've ever seen in a game, we will get back to the cinematography. Harmony unveils a way to channel the innate rage that the brutes have with this weird circular device. I personally really like this because it leads into making the brutes a really interesting fixture of the Covenant gameplay-wise, and makes them feel way less like replacements for elites. Diving into the gameplay for a second, if you shoot the device, which is small but extremely bright so it's hard not to see it, they go berserk and attack whatever is closest to them, whether it's you or the Covenant. So if a situation seems overwhelming, you can shoot those devices, void rage the brutes, and let them kill each other, which is particularly clutch on Legendary because brutes have health for days. Unless you use the Giga-busted needle rifle, we'll get back to that one too. But now back to the campaign. It's broken down into 3 missions. All of what I've talked about so far is the first mission. The second is the one that's making the rounds right now because we are introduced to captured Marines and ODSTs led by Williams. Yes, the character that yaps about PR campaigns and propaganda about the Spartans. I entirely understand what they were trying to do with this character. The campaign itself is short, and they wanted a story of a character that starts out not believing the hype of the Spartans, but quickly learns how awesome and badass not only the Spartans are, but specifically Master Chief. Even by the end of mission 2, she still attempts jokes about the rivalry that exists between ODSTs and Spartans, but I can tell that their intention is that Williams quickly grew to admire Chief, and she's just trying to play this off as banter, and I don't even mind the idea of the character herself. She just suffers from the really bad writing and dialogue that plagues Campaign Evolved. Too many characters, Williams primarily, but not just her, feel as if the writers are trying too hard to be cool, but they don't know how to make it feel organic and natural like Johnson was back in the Bungie games. On top of that, the voice direction, not the voice acting, well, a little bit of that, but mainly the direction for Campaign Evolved is abysmal, and it feels as if the VO for Williams was told to really ham it up, like she's trying to parody a gruff soldier from a military movie.
Look, Marines like us used to be the heart and soul of the UNSC. Until we started playing second fiddle to soldiers that were built instead of born.
But it just doesn't land for me. It doesn't feel cool or natural or organic, it feels artificial and cringe. You bring all of this together and it just makes the character of Williams feel extremely off-putting. And especially when taken out of context, I think it paints her in a way worse light than she actually is. Sure, she yaps in combat a bit, but the bits where she's the focus of the campaign are rather short. I don't think that makes the writing itself good, far from it, but I wouldn't say it sours the whole experience, nor do I think the character of Williams herself is the problem. She's just the mouthpiece for the underlying writing problems that are plaguing any new bit added with this game. Getting back to the mission, it largely takes place in a hunting area on the ship for the Covenant. Moving on, we make it to mission 3 and we get the data and have to get off the ship. We call for the UNSC burden of proof to swing by and pick us up and destroy this Covey ship, but they can't puncture the shields. So Williams and her group stay behind to take down the shields for a minute, giving the burden of proof enough time to destroy it, and Williams' crew along with it. We have the reserve section where we defend the burden of proof and disable the weapons on the actual Covenant ship. It's blown to smithereens, and then we have the scene of Johnson reviewing the data, and it just throws you back to the main menu. Honestly, that final cut is pretty jarring, and despite the fact we destroyed a whole ship, it makes the ending feel wildly anticlimactic. Now let's talk about what I think the campaign does very well. The actual act of playing the video game, I think, is really fun. I enjoyed my time with Operation Meteorite extensively. Most of my issues actually stem from the writing. The gameplay itself is super fun, and I think this extends to Campaign Evolved on the whole. This is the most Halo has felt since the Bungie era. Now, granted, that's not a high bar or anything, but I do think it's still true. And I particularly really like the weapons sandbox that we have in Operation Meteorite. I love how powerful the needle rifle is. I really like that weapon back in Reach, and here it just feels like a beast. You could maybe even argue it's a bit overtuned. Maybe not even just a bit. This thing tears through enemies, even on Legendary. And while sure, having a whole weapon slot be taken with the Brute plasma rifle is kinda lame, don't get me wrong, I find myself enjoying shooting the weapons in this game the more I play of it. For a Halo game, that is very important in my opinion. What else is important? The enemies that you fight. I talked about it before, but I really like what they did with the Brutes. My first impression of them was that I didn't like them, because I didn't know that you're basically supposed to use the needle rifle on them. Everything else, outside of a few exceptions, feel largely like filler to them. And particularly on Legendary, they have so much HP, but if you use the needle rifle, they're gonna go down relatively quickly. But I love the idea of being able to target their chest, do that thing, and cause them to go out into a roid rage bit. One of my biggest problems with the Brutes in Halo historically is how they've largely just felt like replacements for elites. They don't feel like that here. Also, I forgot to talk about one of my favorite weapons now, the Spiker. I know it's a remake of Combat Evolved, and Combat Evolved didn't have dual wielding. When we do get to Halo 2's remake, because come on, that's obvious, I need this thing dual wielding. That weapon, the Spiker, is so dang fun. It looks awesome, right? Just visually, this thing is incredible, but actually hitting enemies with it is super satisfying. I love everything about that weapon. The other element of Operation Meteorite that I really liked and appreciated, the level design. I really like the levels here. All three missions, they bring to the table interesting arenas. You're always on your toes. There's interesting little spots you can find and take advantage of. I like the fact they just threw a ghost in this section. And on this level in particular, I really like the fact when you're facing the stealth elites here, you're supposed to look at the sand and find their footprints. That's really cool in my opinion. And as you can see, they don't just like throw indicators up for them. I really like that bit. It makes this section of the level feel unique, which is what they should do. Gameplay-wise, I have been very honestly satisfied with what they've done with Campaign Evolved. As I started Operation Meteorite, I think they pushed an update that made the movement of elites infinitely better than what it was before. When I played Operation Meteorite on stream, I immediately noticed the fact that the elites were rolling around a lot. They weren't doing all that movement before. And I know they're trying to push an update to address one of my biggest issues, which was the size of the jackal hands and the ability to make them flinch from behind shields. And you can rightfully point out that the game shouldn't have been like that to begin with. I will agree with you, but I do think the game is in a better position than where it was even a few days ago. The other thing that I absolutely love is the Sacristan Order aesthetic here, this white and gold take on the Covenant architecture. It looks so good. This to me is the exact way I want them to expand on Halo and ways to add new things and elements to Halo. This is a great idea. A specific sect of the Covenant that have their own unique aesthetic that still looks and feels like Covenant, but feels unique in the same way. And as we explore the level, we can learn little elements and bits about their unique culture. This is great to me. I love this stuff. There's another element to the level design that I really like, particularly for a remake of Combat Evolved. The final level has you going back through a location you visited previously, just in the other direction. That screams Combat Evolved level design, where you're able to reuse a location, but you tackle it from a different perspective with a different composition of enemies, and it allows you to really appreciate the level design in my opinion. I think they did a really good job in Operation Meteorite, particularly in Mission 3, with doing this. I think this is going to have a lot of issues as a game overall. To me, the actual gameplay and the level design are massive standouts that give me a ton of optimism for the future of Halo. But now let's move on to the issues.
costs more than fancy armor and a good PR campaign.
I wouldn't call this first point a bad thing, but you're definitely going to want to keep a needle rifle on you at all times. This thing is powerful. Normally when it comes to Halo on Legendary, you're going to want some precision weapon. For Operation Meteorite, that is definitely the needle rifle. It tears through elites and brutes, and particularly brutes, in a way no other weapon really does. Except for like maybe the shotgun at close range, but that doesn't count for the brutes. On lower difficulties, this is a non-issue, as is usually the case. But I find myself actively ignoring a lot of weapons, even in the same archetype like the battle rifle or the assault rifle, just because the needle rifle is tiers above them. Honestly though, I don't think I want them to balance this. It's really fun, which is why I said I don't think this is necessarily a bad thing. If you're going to have a busted weapon, have it be really fun, and I love the needle rifle here. The other issue, as we've covered, the dialogue just sucks. It's either serviceable but generic, or just really bad and kind of cringy. It's trying so hard to elicit those same tones as like Halo 2, particularly when it comes to Johnson, trying to recapture that, but the dialogue and the presentation and the execution just isn't there at all, and it feels like somebody's trying to actively be cool when they really aren't. It's a real big problem for me because the actual story being told here, I am rather interested in. Harmony and all the experimentations. The overall presentation of Operation Meteorite is basically a buddy cop flick between Johnson and Chief, and sometimes it's fine. Like, I don't mind the dynamic here, even if Chief is talking way more than he normally does in games. I don't personally mind that stuff, but the dialogue isn't good enough to really make it work, in my opinion. It's fine, but then they try to have a scene like this where Williams and crew stay behind for Chief and Johnson to get out, and they try to be really cool by having the Marines that we thought may have been dead at this point. Oh no, they're actually alive and they're really cool. They're standing on top of a pile of dead Covenant, right? That's really cool. Just the way that it's shot and the way that all these cutscenes are paced, it really does a disservice to what they're trying to do. It doesn't feel cool. It doesn't feel natural. It doesn't feel organic. It feels really artificial and forced and honestly really cringe. And I do not say that lightly, because I think the underlying ideas of what they're trying to go for have some merit and can be really cool. They just lack the skill in executing on those ideas, and they end up wildly missing the mark. I think when it's just Chief and Johnson, some people will take issue with it, but I'm fine with those elements. But it's like whenever anyone, including Johnson, tries to be overly cool, it just doesn't really land. And like I said, it's a combination of the voice acting performance and direction on top of poorly written dialogue, and also really bad cinematography that every now and then shows glimpses of competence, like particularly at the end of this cutscene here. They also rely on a writing trope I've been noticing a lot more in very long-running established franchises that clearly have new writers, where the new writers don't really know how to have new iconic dialogue, so they just default to referencing old lines that people love, and they just reuse those lines. They do that a lot in Operation Meteorite here, but I will say one of the things I do appreciate about moments like this is their use of music. A lot of the music that they use is just old Halo music, but they pair up certain moments to reference the songs that played at other moments in the Bungie games, and I really appreciated that. Like in this scene when Chief and Johnson leave Williams and crew, they're playing the song that played in Halo 3 when Chief had the vision of Cortana saying, "Don't make a girl a promise you know you can't keep." Does the scene have the same gravitas as that scene they're referencing? No, but I can appreciate the callback, but I think they rely on callbacks way too much, and the new scenes feel like shells of their former selves in terms of what they're referencing here. The outer space section at the very end in the Seraph section looks awesome, by the way. If this loading screen would ever actually load, there we go. I love what they did with the outer space bit here. It looks great. And they go for like this Star Fox little PNG in the bottom left corner whenever somebody's talking when you're in the Seraph itself. I kind of like it. I think it looks kind of neat. But the actual mission itself here at the very end, if you've played Long Night of Solace in Halo Reach, it's basically that, but they try to make it not annoying. Where if you played Long Night of Solace and that space section in Halo Reach on like Legendary, it was very easy to get overwhelmed and blown up. Here, not really. I played this on Legendary and you have to like actively try to die, and there's just not that many enemies a lot of the time. Most of the time though, those enemies aren't even going to fight you. They're going to fight probably Johnson or the burden of proof ship itself. You're trying to defend it. But again, on Legendary, I never even had the burden of proof be destroyed, if that's even possible. So the section to me feels a bit underwhelming gameplay wise. I wish they did a little something else here. It really does just feel like rehashing that one bit from Halo Reach, but not as well in my opinion. But the idea of being able to pilot a Seraph in this whole section entirely, that idea is cool, just execution wise, this could have been way better in my opinion. Looks gorgeous though. I think the opening cutscene as well, like this is the first cutscene that plays in Operation Meteorite. I think it does a great job of highlighting a lot of the cinematography issues that Campaign Evolved just has. This bleeds into the base campaign as well. The cutscenes are just bad and they're really poorly paced. A lot of the times when it comes to modern media, we're kind of used to things being way too fast paced for like TikTok brain rot, right? This is like the opposite problem where all the cutscenes are way too long. They're slow. The action just doesn't hit because everybody's running at the pace of a turtle on crutches. There's just not a sense of tension or pace. Like, look at this. Like, this is pathetic in my opinion. Like, this cutscene does not hit. Now, they're trying to have the Prophet, like Harmony here. They're trying to have this dude Aura Farm, and he looks pretty cool in my opinion. I like him. But it's just everything else about this cutscene is so slow, from the animation to the lack of tension that is in this scene and pretty much every other cutscene in Campaign Evolved, and it just drags everything down. I actually don't even mind the dialogue that Harmony has here. He's probably one of the better examples of actually okay dialogue in this game, but Campaign Evolved is this really weird spot for Halo, where personally I am really enjoying the actual gameplay, particularly for Operation Meteorite, all the additions to the sandbox, and I really enjoy the level design, map design, enemy design, weapon sandbox, shooting my weapons, all of that feels great to me. And arguably it's some of the best Halo that I've played since Halo Reach. But the story, man, the ideas are there, the execution isn't. There are some really cool like lore additions here, like when it comes to the brutes and that device. I like Harmony. I like leaning into the genetic augmentation here, and even Harmony bringing up the parallel between what he's doing and the Spartan program and how they genetically modified people to become Spartans. I really like that element. I just wish it was told way better and way more consistently better. And the other thing I want to talk about is the stanchion. Johnson busts out old Sophie, his old stanchion, and we're not allowed to use this weapon. It's the main weapon he uses throughout the campaign, but we can't use it in an FPS. It's really dang cool. And the only reason I can think that they don't allow us to use it here is if they plan to give it to us at some point later on in like a Halo 2 or Halo 3 remake. So they're trying to build up old Sophie for that eventual like handoff when we get it to try to make that moment special. Is that confirmed? No. That's the only justification that I can think of for that though. It's one of those things that does pretty much suck in the moment, but that payoff could be really cool if they go that route.
Just couldn't save any from me, could you?
I want to talk about one of my favorite elements of the prequel missions, and that is environmental storytelling. There are a few moments in this campaign that I think are really dang good when it comes to this, particularly in the second mission. Now, the second mission takes place in this giant hunting dome, and it's so dang cool. I love the look, I love the aesthetic, I love how grand and open it feels, at least when it comes to some of these shots. I am a big fan of the environments in the prequel missions. Right after the beginning of this one, you have a fight with some brutes, and you can find Marines dead, scattered across the floor here, blood surrounding them. It's very simple, don't get me wrong, and this is a minor one, but this also takes place right before we meet up with Williams and a crew. So it's foreshadowing and basically using the environment to show you just how brutal this location is for the UNSC survivors. Again, it's a very minor detail in my opinion, but it's small elements like this that can make Halo feel so special. And particularly when a lot of the writing itself and the dialogue, in my opinion, is poorly executed and implemented. When they do get things like this right, I am personally appreciative of that fact. Then around halfway through the mission, you come into this structure and you can peer through this window and you see a patrol of Covenant. You want to go rescue some Marines, so you head down this hallway to get down to them. This door opens and you are immediately greeted with this visual here. You have 3 holding cells with brutes in them. The thing I'm aiming at right now is the lock to those cells. The moment the Covenant recognize I'm here, one of the elites is going to make a beeline to that button. Like so. Watch, he's about to come around the corner. He's going to it. He's right there. He's right there. I am on the clock here. I can kill this guy before he unlocks these doors, in which case the brutes remain sealed. If I wait too long though, this is what's going to happen. Yada-dee, I'm just waiting around, killing this jackal, giving this dude plenty of time, and the holding cells open up, and now I have to deal with 3 brutes. On my first playthrough through this mission on Legendary, funnily enough, I killed that elite before he even opened the doors. So those brutes remained locked. On my replay through, I just wanted to see what would happen. I love little playable scenarios like that, where it's just a part of the scene that's going on and I can choose to interact and take the initiative, or I can wait around and suffer the consequences. I am a big fan of stuff like that. Now, I don't recall them doing situations like this too often throughout the Operation Meteorite campaign, but it's moments like this that make it memorable to me. It's such a weird dichotomy, where I am such a big fan of what they did with Operation Meteorite gameplay-wise. And even when it comes to the broad brushstrokes of the plot, I am a big fan of. When we get to dialogue and the actual writing going on here, it just falls flat. That's its biggest weakness. If they're able to fix that, then I will really look forward to the future of Halo, because these missions, gameplay-wise, are super fun. I've played through Operation Meteorite twice, once in Legendary for my first playthrough, and today on normal. These missions are super fun. I really enjoy them. And they're not just good, in my opinion, by like modern Halo standards. These are great Halo missions. Just if you don't really pay attention to anyone talking. If you do that, you're fine. But even then, like every now and then, when Chief and Johnson talk to each other and just banter, some of that banter's fine. There's like glimmers of hope strewn about the muck here. Now, I've talked about how I do not like the overall writing of Operation Meteorite, particularly when it comes to dialogue and cinematography. There's one moment, though, that's weirdly competent, and it's at the end of what I would consider to be otherwise a cringe cutscene. Basically, we had Williams and crew go and try and find transportation to get us off this Covenant ship. We lose contact with her, and we are concerned that she might have died alongside the rest of the Marines. That or just something bad happened. But we get there, and then all of a sudden, we have this scene of Master Chief and Johnson clearly looking at something, Johnson being happy, tapping Chief on the shoulder there, and it cuts over to this. This circles back to what I've been talking about, where they really want these guys to be cool, but because of the way the cutscene is paced, the way it's shot, and the way it's handled with these characters, it comes off more like an attempt to be cool rather than being organically cool. But then we have an unfortunate situation. We have to destroy this ship because we can't let these experiments survive. Unfortunately, the ship we're calling in for backup, the Burden of Proof, doesn't have the firepower to actually puncture the Covenant shields here. So somebody has to stay behind to take out the generators. It can't be Master Chief, he's too valuable. And the reason somebody has to stay behind is because when you take out those generators, those shields are only going to go down for like a minute. You don't have enough time to take them down and then get off the ship before the Burden of Proof is going to have to fire. You can't let Chief stay behind, he's far too valuable. So Williams proposes that she and her Marines will stay behind and take down the shields. Chief tells her, no, that's a one-way trip, you're not doing this. Williams says that she knew it was a one-way trip all the way from the beginning, but hey, at least she's going to be able to go out on her terms, along with the Marines. And then we get another callback. Chief says that wasn't the mission. Johnson replies, missions change, Chief, they always do. This wasn't the bit that I called competent from before. What I really like is this moment that happens after this. Williams tells Chief that she has to do this, otherwise she's not going to be able to sleep at night knowing these like abominations and these experiments will allow it to survive. She tosses Chief this little device that Hominy used to enrage the brutes. They play the song from Halo 3 where Master Chief had a vision of Cortana saying, don't make a girl a promise you know you can't keep. Williams and crew leave to go do their job. Chief stays behind and looks at this thing. As the song plays, he throws it down. And before we transition to go to outer space and the Seraphs, the camera pans down to this thing. What I think they are trying to do, and maybe I'm giving them too much credit here, but what I think they're trying to do is draw a parallel between how Chief was able to get away because of the sacrifice of Williams and crew by staying behind on the Covenant ship, and Cortana staying in High Charity, and then Chief making the promise that we all know about. I think they're trying to draw a comparison between the chip that Chief used for Cortana and how he actually held on to that, and the idea that he would come back and get her off that ship and bring her home, to him throwing this thing down and accepting Williams' sacrifice and knowing that she and her crew are going to die. I might be giving them too much credit, but the use of the song, I think I'm right on this. And this really circles back to something I've been hopping in on this video. The plot beats of what they're going for have some merit to them and can be really dang cool. The execution and how they actually handle it, particularly with cinematography and dialogue, leaves so much to be desired. Operation Meteorite is a massively mixed bag. The gameplay I really like. The story, dialogue, and writing, bleh. Though the actual plot beats that we hit are really dang cool in my opinion. But here's where you come in. Leave a comment down below with what you think Halo needs to do for the future. Both gameplay and story-wise, what do you want to see going forward? I would love to hear your thoughts, hear your opinions, and hear your perspectives. And while you're down there, please leave a like and subscribe. It really helps the channel out and helps support future content, and I greatly appreciate it. And I also play Final Fantasy XIV around these parts, and we just had the Berlin Fan Fest where we got new snippets of story for the next expansion ever called. Want to find out what's going on? You should check out this video right here for more. Thank you all for tuning in. Stay safe, have a great day, and I'll see you all next time. Bye-bye, everybody. Until we meet again.